This week on MCrider, I want to share with you one vision tip that'll keep you safer and smoother going through a corner. Hey, my name's Kevin. If you're new here, I release a weekly video on MCrider that's focused solely on road skills and road strategy to help make you a better rider. You know, vision is such an important skill on a motorcycle that I think an entire book could be written on the subject. How to properly use vision on a motorcycle. Before we get to that one tip that I mentioned in the open that'll make a huge difference in your vision on a motorcycle, let's lay some groundwork on why vision is so important to a skilled motorcycle rider. Most riders have heard that the motorcycle will go where you look. So when performing slow maneuvers or even at road speed, if I want my motorcycle to end up over there, I need to turn my head and look over there. And it's more than just moving your eyes, though, because a lot of new riders try to just move their eyes. I tell people, turn your head or point your nose in the direction that you want the motorcycle to go, to point your nose at the target. Now, you can practice this every time you're riding a motorcycle or even when you're in your car until it becomes second nature for you. In fact, you can practice it walking around the cubicle area at work. So you walk up to the corner and you turn your head and look through it. You might look kind of weird, but it'll get you some practice time in. Most any book on proper riding technique will instruct the rider to avoid target fixation as well. Doesn't matter if you're on the track or the road, you have to avoid target fixation. So what is target fixation? What do we mean by that? Well, target fixation is a natural reaction that causes us to stare at a perceived threat or hazard in the road. Target fixation is a natural reaction for us to stare at what we perceive to be a threat. Now, there are several problems with target fixation that it creates on a motorcycle. One, remember our motorcycle is going to go where we look. So if I'm staring at the gravel, if I'm making this left-hand turn and I'm staring at the gravel on the outside of the corner, instead of turning my head and looking where I want to go, I'm going to hit the gravel. Target fixation also causes us to focus on the problem and to not seek a solution. Man, this is true in life, and as much as it is in motorcycle riding, the more time I spend focused on the problems, the less time I have to find the solution. When riding a motorcycle, sometimes we only have seconds or even portions of a second to evaluate a problem and find the solution. If you waste valuable time staring at the problem, you're most likely going to be involved in the problem. And target fixation also causes us to freeze up. We become paralyzed by the threat and become unable to avoid the problem. Many riders who run wide in that corner or hit a vehicle that pulls out in front of them or hit that patch of gravel and lose traction do so because they become fixated on the problem and run right into it without ever doing anything to avoid it. They become paralyzed by the threat. To me, there's no better example of who can overcome target fixation more so than the riders on the MotoGP circuit. Man, these guys are amazing. They can be approaching a corner at breakneck speed. They'll have two motorcycles collide right in front of them. Motorcycles can be flipping and tumbling in the air, parts flying everywhere, riders sliding off the track. And the riders behind them approaching this mess have the discipline to look through the corner. So they've got a crash right here in front of them, and they have the discipline to turn their head and look through the corner, looking where they want the motorcycle to go, and they're often able to avoid the crash in large part because of their discipline with their vision. Now, if target fixation is something that's natural, how do we retrain our natural instincts for that? It starts by developing good vision skills when there's not a threat. Like we said earlier, always looking where you want the motorcycle to go. If I can't turn my head correctly with no threat, I'm surely not going to be able to do so when there's a threat directly in front of me. And the best place to practice this is in a low threat environment, doing slow speed maneuvers on a parking lot. Now, many riders hear words like practice on a parking lot, and they think, man, that's not going to help me. When am I going to use those skills out on the street? But you're wrong. On the parking lot, with a lower threat to damage and injury, you're developing the skills to have proper technique on the street. Once you've developed proper head and eye placement on the parking lot, and you want to practice, not until you can get it right, but practice until the point where you can't get it wrong, then you can begin to apply it out on the street. You can practice on the street by what I call setting yourself up or playing pretend. You want to find a road that's not busy with little traffic, and when you notice a small imperfection in the road, pretend as if it's a real hazard and consciously look away from it. Get your vision up, look where you want the motorcycle to go, away from the threat. As you consciously make these adjustments, they begin to become second nature, and eventually you can retrain your reaction to hazards. Now, this doesn't mean that you'll always avoid target fixation, but it does give you better odds at doing so when a real threat situation presents itself out on the street. So as you can see, having good vision on the street's a huge subject, and it's something that separates the average street rider from the expert street rider out on the road. But now that we have some groundwork laid on the subject of vision, I'm going to tell you my one tip that seems like it's breaking some of the rules that I've just told you about. So if you're approaching, let's say you're out on the road and you're approaching this wide sweeping corner, all right? So I'm approaching this wide corner to the right. It's not a blind corner, it's just wide open pavement. You can see all the way through it. The proper technique, like we said, is to look through the corner, right? So I'm approaching this corner, and as I approach it, I'm gonna look through the corner. So what I mean by that is I'm scanning the road, I'm looking through the corner, but then I'm eventually pointing my nose, or I'm looking in the direction that I want the motorcycle to end up. I'm scanning through that corner. So let's say that I'm approaching that corner and I turn my head. What about all of this pavement between me and where I want the motorcycle to eventually go? There could be gravel, there could be dead animals, there could be huge cracks in the pavement, or any number of hazards between where you are right now and where you want the motorcycle to be. Well, here's my tip on how to deal with that. You still want to turn your head, right? That's our technique. You still want to point your nose. You still want to look where you want the motorcycle to go for the most part. But you also need to make periodic checks of the road and the surface as you proceed through the corner. So if I'm taking a curve to the right and there's too much surface between where I am right now and where I want the motorcycle to be, I'm going to look through that curve, but I'm also going to sneak a peek as I round the curve. So I've looked through that corner, I've got my head and eyes over there, and I'm occasionally going to look back at the pavement, right? I'm checking that surface between where I am right now and where I want the motorcycle to be. One important thing to remember when doing this is you still want to be checking far enough up the road. So as I scan back, I'm not coming all the way back to the front tire, because the objects that are at my front tire, it's already too late. I'm going to hit those. So I'm scanning back, 20 feet in front of the motorcycle. And then I'm, keeping my nose pointed in the direction. I'm just scanning back occasionally, and I'm checking that surface in the road between where I am right now and where I want the motorcycle to be. Think of this like you're standing in front of a brick wall, hitting a tennis ball against it. You hit the ball goes out, you follow it with your eyes, but then as the ball comes back, you follow the ball back in, you hit it back out again. It's the same kind of thing that you're doing on the road. You're keeping your head and eyes over there, you're glancing back occasionally through that road surface, checking to make sure that that road surface is still clear. Using the bricks in the wall is not a perfect analogy, because in that scenario, you're constantly looking back and forth. Where on the street, you're mainly wanting to keep your focus out in the distance. You're just making that occasional check. You're looking occasionally back through that road surface to make sure that it's clear, and you're doing so only with your eyes. You're not turning your head, or you're not moving your nose off of the target. You're just moving your eyes back and forth, checking that surface between where you are right now and where you want the motorcycle to be. I have specific exercises in the field guide that are designed to help you develop proper head turn out on a parking lot. If you don't have access to the field guide, you can learn more about becoming a member at MCrider.com/support. When you do become a member, you'll get access to the entire field guide with this and other exercises designed to help you improve your riding skills. And I think just as importantly, you'll get access to the forums where you and thousands of other riders can share their knowledge on improving on two wheels. And we'll be discussing this video on the forums as well. Until next week, guys, it's Ken with MCrider, and I'll see you on the road. There are multiple ways to support the channel. You can become a member on YouTube at mcrider.com/member or support the channel through Patreon at mcrider.com/support. Either way, you'll get full access to the forum and the field guides, which will further the training that we release here on a weekly basis.